I feel lost. I feel frustrated. I feel partly alone. It's been a struggle. I've noticed the weight packed on now. I feel the pain. Six weeks ago, I tore my ACL right down the middle of the tendon, and I was in the middle of doing my fireman training, my dream, my goal, and now I'm wearing a brace that's holding all of those ligaments together, and that dream seems so far away now. It becomes part of my daily routine now to walk past the firehouse to remind me to keep going, to not give up, and learn how to walk again. I'm about to go through this massive change as my recovery is over 5 months or more. But I realized in my first rehabilitation session that I have to do some things to change.
Need any lead up into these questions? Or
Not bad.
are
So
you just
you at the
happy to be
moment.
like,
Maybe you guys are ready. We go.
okay, perfect.
Do you want him to introduce himself first? Yeah.
Great. Hi, I'm Carl, and I'll be interviewing you. Hi, I'm Carl, and I'll be interviewing JD. So JD, what was your awakening? What was your awakening moment that you realized that you needed to change?
Well, for me, it wasn't the moment of the accident, but it was coming off the crutches into the brace that made me really realize that I needed to make some shift and changes in my life. I had my first rehabilitation session, and the tears just kept coming, and I didn't really know why during the moment, but when I got home and I had Sven come over and he was sitting with me and he was like, you're really upset, and can I support you? How can, what's going on? And I realized at the time that it just wasn't my knee that was hurt, it was also inside me that was hurt. I realized that my whole life I've hated myself so much that it has limited the things that I wanted to do and be. And in that moment, it kind of really made me realize that what do I need to do differently to heal this injury, but also move forward to heal what was going on inside of me. And, we're pretty much not allowed to really talk about this in our queer culture and our community because people are living on the surface a lot more. And I had to really make some decisions. What goes next for me? What do I do to bring this into a healing space internally and physically?
What do you think would happen if you didn't have the accident? Where do you think you'd be?
I think, I would still be struggling with some of the things that I've put into place, like understanding that everything is actually mind and body together. We separate it so much, especially around the space around, I've chosen to learn from this by seeing a psychologist, a dietitian, a rehabilitation coach, and connecting with my friends and my loved ones, and then relying on my community. So I think I would have been disconnected a lot more than I am now, but also I realized that nothing can stay the same. So this has created the change I probably needed in the form of creating a physical injury to open those doors.
Yeah.
So for me, around that space, it's really hard to think about what it would be like other than what it is now, because the significance of that moment, realizing that I had been feeling broken inside and physically, really opened the door to see that we need to work together in all this space to heal. And I realized now that I was kind of lazy with my life. I kind of was on autopilot a lot of time, and I would have been on autopilot if this actual experience happened. Like, my dream was to be a fireman, but I realized this gives me an opportunity to be stronger and fitter, but also mentally, and that I probably wasn't really ready at the time, even though I was climbing stairs with belts and doing all that training and doing well at it. There was parts of me that needed to be healed from past trauma and past experiences, especially around we have this extra layer around sexuality and how we should be in our community as well. And that really has changed the perspective for me around that space of inlaying it all together. So I need to stop.
So where are you now with your awakening?
Yeah, so in the realization of it I realized I had to pull the parts apart of what I needed to not be on autopilot anymore, to actually wake up to not just only the healing. So I made a decision to work with a psychologist who's really helped with letting go and dealing and processing and giving me tips and tools. I decided to see a dietitian, nutritionist who's been working on the diet, and I had DNA testing and allergy testing, which has really changed the way I eat, because I now understand the science as well as what the mental process was. Then rehabilitation, so I had to learn to walk again. So at the moment, I'm in the phase where I am walking, but it's just getting mobility and bending the knee. So, and it's not bending the knee to the queen, but to all the queens, but it is bending the knee. So, I've also relied on the connection of my good friends that I have created. And like I said, I've got to see the connection shift and change, and actually being okay with that person doesn't want to be in this at the moment, or, being okay with that. Then I have realized that my family is really important. And I also am so lucky because I have a chosen family, which I get to share this with, who have come in so many ways. And I had to learn, and what I've learned is to let people do things for me now and accept it and be grateful and appreciate it and not feel that I have to return that, because I was very good at that, but this gave me the opportunity. And using all these things together and focusing on them has created this series. This is what the next 9 episodes are actually about, is about these components. So that's kind of it all coming in. So I'm starting the first process of that. So it's bringing in so much joy as well to share that.
Being able to, like, mental health is such a big thing I don't think that we talk about enough. And I think not everybody has that experience, but I've certainly in the last 2 years had a lot to deal with as well. So in some ways, maybe I've had an awakening as well. But I think that what I would want to know is, what would your advice be to somebody that finds themselves in a similar situation, or realizes they're like, holy shit, like, who the fuck am I? Like, something needs to change, or they just have that moment where they find themselves in tears one day and they're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what advice would you give to somebody else that might feel the same way?
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and it's interesting for me because this is actually my way to give that advice. Like, for me, I'm very good at talking. Like, I'm actually very good at my emotions as well. And I know you're giggling now because of it, but also have been so guarded. I have only given surface stuff. So this showing through a media that we use every day is the way that I feel, by people watching me be vulnerable, showing the raw experience, showing how I am a queer person, but I may not fit into any of our many labels we like to give ourselves, but also that doesn't define me as only as what I am. We all have mental health, we all have our bodies and we want to do better, we all have careers that we want to do. So watch the series definitely and see through mine, and I try and practice it more. And I think the best advice I can give to people is, don't shut people out. Like, allow your friends to support you as much as they can. Allow yourself to stop and breathe for a second and not react, and actual act from the moment that you actually get a bit more clarity. Because I know I was very reactive, like, I'm hurt, I'm going to be a fireman, this is screwed, I'm meant to be a fireman, it's my dream, I've passed all these exams so far, that was not healthy. And once I had that awakening moment, I realized I can be calm, I can be cool, that is no rush, it can happen, it will happen. It's just take the pressure off yourself.
Yeah.
And look at the people around you and appreciate you, because once you start appreciating them, you appreciate you because they're appreciating you. And I think that's the advice I would give, is give yourself a little bit of a break, as in be kind to yourself.
Yeah, give yourself space, right? And you spend so much time, you spend your entire life with yourself. So you need to make your headspace a really nice place to live, I guess.
Yeah, and I think you made the joke, like, you wake up with yourself every day. What's your awakening? Well, physically you wake up, but also I think a lot of people are running on autopilot. They're literally, I was so lazy from what I was eating to how I talk to people, how I treat people. I think even, like, to be honest, even to think I really have put time into our relationship, and you comment about, thank you for being kind and understanding that I work on the weekends and stuff. But that's not an issue for me now, because I realize that not everything is the way I think. There's so many different ways to think and act. So by taking the pressure off you and me, that you will see me when you see me, it doesn't have to be, we need to see each other, we need to hang out, or we're not friends, or we're not colleagues, or we're not in a relationship.
What's next?
What's next? I want to explore connection, because that was the first thing I really needed to realize in this process, was who was I connecting with? Who's connecting with me? How is it going to help with my next part of development and learning? And that connection is both ways, and it shifts and changes. It moves in levels up and down the friendship space. And it also gets to you get to see the project I created to create connection in my life, which is really fun. You go for it. Carl, thank you so much for being part of this and being open to, share my story and share your story at the same time. It means a lot. You are an amazing friend, and thank you for helping me inspire others to be better.
Should we hug it out?
Yeah. Oh, shit.
This is my amazing friend Spencer Colt, and I'm about to ask him the same question. When did you have an awakening, and when did you change?
I felt it was a point when I got told that there's a lot of stuff that I couldn't do as a gay man. And I'd just gone through a divorce, and at that point I had an epiphany, and I wanted to do all the things that I was told that I couldn't do, not because of just to spite people because they told me I couldn't do it, but because who is anybody to tell me I can't do, or be the person that I want to. So I got into adult entertainment. I did stripping as a gay man, as an openly gay man in a straight world, and I was pretty good at it. I still do it occasionally. I got back into event management. I started traveling around to do OnlyFans to express myself sexually. And it was a funny story getting into that. A straight friend during the pandemic came to me and said, "Hey, would you like to be in my OnlyFans?" He's a very, very well-known adult entertainer. And I said, "Who would want to see me?" He's like, "You would be surprised." And it just escalated from there. And from there, I went back into study to fitness. I went back into event management. I moved to Melbourne to be with my boyfriend. And on top of that, I did a bunch of other stuff. And it's kind of interesting. I kind of went through a phase where I was like, how do I get to this point of being me? And then I remembered that, you're different people throughout your entire life. And I remembered when I was at my happiest, which was when I was a scuba instructor. I was kind of the stereotypical adventure gay there for a little while. And yet again, that was something somebody told me that I could never do, and I did it, and I was good at it. And I thought, I need to incorporate these pieces of me that were positive and, projected me forward in my life and also gave other people joy when I was just like, having that moment to myself. I want to be the me that I always wanted to be, and who is anyone else to stop me from being that me?
So I guess my awakening definitely would have been towards the end of the second wave of COVID. Yeah, I was really struggling with my health that second wave. Really struggling with my health. I was a lot sicker than a lot of people knew, which was tough. But it was at that time that the company that I worked for about over 10 years decided that they didn't want me anymore. And that really pushed me to another level. To the point where I was really, really, really struggling. So I picked up the camera, just had a necessity. I started taking photos. Yeah. And it seemed to relax me, seemed to bring me peace. I could lose myself in photography. And just out of sheer necessity, I started charging for it because I had to pay the bills, had to eat. And my photography got better and better, went into videography. And then, a couple of years later, we're a production company. And sure, yeah, I'm still a little bit angry at that company. But without that, I don't think I would have had that realization that everything has to change. I'm spending a lot more of my time in a creative space, and that's bringing me so much joy. I'm working with a lot of creative people, which is frustrating, exciting, but brings me so much joy. It's scary that I don't have a lot of the things that I thought I would need to be happy, but I'm probably the happiest I've been in a long time. Yeah, so that was my awakening. Second wave of COVID, my health, the company I had worked for 10, 12 years, And just the realisation that, yeah, that wasn't me. This is me. So that was my awakening.
Tell me a time when you realized in your life that you had to make some changes because things just aren't moving the way that you wanted. It's kind of like that awakening moment where you realized, I need to do something differently.
I actually think that's probably a pretty common state for me. Like, I don't think that I ever feel contented. And so there's always that, what have I got to do, or wanting to change things or move things on. So it might be something, I think there's a restlessness there. And so I'm constantly thinking about things differently. How do I evolve? What do I do? I think there's definitely been highs and lows. Like, I think you could say there's been peak moments and lots. So, I know that it's a hard one to talk about, but it's, having done some time in recovery for, a couple of different things, and, really feeling some low points in terms of some of the choices that I make in terms of alcohol and food and different things has been really challenging. And so, but I guess there's a difference between wanting to change because it feels like I'm moving towards something as opposed to trying to move away from something. And I think there's been quite a lot of times where I felt really uncomfortable and I've tried to change things. And so I wonder if for me, and this is going in a journey, but maybe it's better to sit with, maybe to have less change, because the process of always changing, there's not a lot of sitting with or settling with things.
So in a way, your awakening moment is to sit with the process instead of creating the change to understand. Is that kind of where you're leaning at?
Well, taking a leaf out of your book, it'd be around not being so much of a pusher, and maybe I shouldn't throw you under the bus, but I will, because we've been friends for too long, and I need to blame you. No, but I do think there is. You're right. I think part of that growth and awareness is not to be okay with things not changing or artificially, because I do think there is that energetic quality around a change that I'm pushing through because I feel uncomfortable versus actually this is the right thing to do. And
tell me more about how you came to the realization of that moment when constantly trying to change is actually not been the change for you. It's been kind of holding you in a stuck space.
Well, it's almost like a crazy person is inside me, because it almost becomes obsessive compulsive. And there's also that restlessness. I don't really have that sense of contentment a lot. Like there's almost like an absence of being okay with life as it is. Like it's almost like a constant search to improve. And I think about when I look at a guy that I came across once referred to as shelf help in terms of all the self-help books that I've got. Like there's always something that I've been looking to fix. It's almost like coming from a place of thinking that there was something fundamentally broken about me. And so I would think about all of these external actions that I would take or trying to make things different so that I would be different. But actually, I think that's the kind of opposite point for me that's coming online now, is about how to sit with things as they are and start to be okay with that and see what comes of that without having to artificially kind of change and evolve things. And I do think that's shifted over time. It's like there's nothing broken, there's nothing wrong. It's just part of my humanness. But I think it's generalizing, but I think it's quite big in our culture to kind of go, there's something wrong, you got to fix it. And it's like, well, actually, there's nothing broken.
No one is broken. And as we've learned through this episode, it's about healing. It's about healing our physical and mental together. It all connects. And thank you for coming on this journey and listening to these three amazing people. And Carl, of course, share these different versions of understanding this topic with me. The exciting part is this links to the next part, which is episode 2, which is connection. From this experience, I realized that there is a lot of things come together, and that's what we're exploring in all the episodes. So the next episode, connection, is about how I've been connecting with people, understanding people, connecting with myself, and using a fun game to explain that. The JD's Jenga project. I'd like to thank Toto Productions, and thank you for coming on the journey of our first episode. It's real until it's not real, and let's all talk about it.